the next year, Fox 12 is counting down to America's 250th birthday by sharing stories of Pacific Northwest history. And today, we're looking back at a Silicon Valley icon and his brief time in Oregon.
Yeah, we're talking about Apple co-founder Steve Jobs. His company would transform the world of technology, and one Portland college would have a lasting impact on his work.
Fox 12's Joe Vithiathel has the story.
35 years before the first iPhone, 22 years before the first Mac, and 4 years before the very first Apple computer, a freshman named Steve Jobs began his first and only year at Reed College.
We're not talking about the Silicon Valley tech executive in the black turtleneck. We're talking about a 17-year-old, long-haired hippie, barefoot, lover of Bob Dylan and the Beatles.
Jobs had insisted that his parents send him to Reed, which had been a focal point of 1960s counterculture. But his time there as a student was brief, just one semester.
It was very expensive to attend Reed College, and he felt like he was making an undue burden on his parents. But he's also been clear that he wasn't really interested in the academic program.
So he dropped out. But even though he wasn't enrolled, Jobs began to drop in on classes that he found interesting, including a course on calligraphy. Reed's calligraphy program was considered the best in the country. It was founded by Professor Lloyd Reynolds in 1948, and when Jobs arrived in 1972, the course was taught by one of Reynolds' students, a former monk named Robert Palladino. And Reed's students would see Reynolds and Palladino's handiwork everywhere.
We're imagining the 1970s. We don't have the laser writer. All the posters and advertising that are hanging all over the walls, all of that was happening by hand and beautifully.
Even though he wasn't paying tuition, Reed administrators looked the other way as Jobs learned about historic scripts and the patience required to write them.
Unschel script, the Carolingian script, the Gothic blackletter script.
He didn't stay long. Jobs moved back to California in 1974, where he and friend Steve Wozniak sold the first Apple computer 2 years later. His time at Reed would appear to be a footnote until 1984. When overseeing the creation of the first Macintosh, he wanted an alternative to the blocky, angular text that was universal in computer displays.
Steve has the vision through the calligraphy class that you don't have to have a font that looks like that. You can have beautiful typefaces. He had an idea. He didn't necessarily make it, but he made it happen, right? So a lot of those people who designed those early digital typefaces also studied calligraphy here at Reed College.
And it didn't take long for competitors like Microsoft to follow Apple's lead and include custom fonts in their word processing programs.
Everybody knows what a font is now. Do I want it bold? Do I want it italic? A push of a button allows you to do that now. These were all innovations that Jobs brought there to the personal computer.
Today, the Reed calligraphy tradition continues. Gregory McNaughton teaches the discipline to students, staff, and even alumni. He says it's an art form that is linked in many ways to Reed's most famous dropout.
Calligraphy is about making beautiful things. You learn how to slow down, you learn how to pay attention, and you learn how to take care. All of these things are things that Steve Jobs talked about all the time. The reason the iPhone feels so good in your hand is because somebody made that decision to not give it sharp edges, for example. We have the opportunity to make beautiful things, and the things that we have in our daily lives should be beautiful.
I love that.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. So something we all take for granted.
Yes. That story's long overdue, by the way.
Yes.
I'm so glad you
Traced
did that.
to this one class at Reed. So another factor, so 1984, the first Mac came out. That was also the year when Reed ended its calligraphy courses.
Oh, wow.
But 12 years ago, that man I interviewed there, Greg McNaughton, he brought it back. It's now called the Calligraphy Initiative. And essentially, they teach calligraphy to students, to faculty, anyone who wants to learn within the Reed community. And he gave me this. This is actually a replica of the instruction book that they would have had when Jobs was there. It was written by Lloyd Reynolds in the 1950s.
Did you practice,
Joe? No.
Okay.
But look at that. I mean, this is all replication of his actual handwriting. And
it's a lot of work. I did it
how to do it. I mean, that's the point. If you read, and I recently did read the Steve Jobs biography, and he talks about making sure things are perfect and taking your time, and calligraphy really does tie into that.
So it reminds me of weddings. I mean, it's like the last time I really found it useful was like you would hire somebody to do your wedding envelopes or something.
Well, if you want to do it by your hand, which is, you can still do that thanks to the folks at Reed College. And I do want to point out, this is actually part one of 2 stories that we're going to be doing about Steve Jobs and his time in Oregon. So
I loved it.
There's another location here that had a big impact on Apple, and we'll have that for you.
Was it an orchard? Was it? I don't know.
Spoiling my
Maybe
story.
not.
I'm just making things up here.
I'm just glad this isn't a lost art. I
Right,
love
no.
knowing that Reed College is still teaching people how to do it. I think that's so
Actually, really a
special.
resurgence of calligraphy. Right
Yeah,
now.
I think there is a lot more appreciation
Yeah.
now that we all do just type.
Yep.
The idea that you can pick up this art form and still do it by hand is pretty incredible.
What a story.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Love it.
Thank you,
Or
Joe.
go beyond that, you voice text it, and then it's
Yeah.
you don't even
You
type
don't
it.
have to type it. Yeah.
Let's